A severe crisis has struck Europe, prompting Spain to implement measures to address scarcity of resources. This plan, aimed at ensuring there is enough for everyone, unfortunately denies the rights of pregnant women and children, leading some to leave the country. However, legal means of leaving are difficult, forcing people to turn to illegal methods to save their lives. Mia and Nico, a married couple, find themselves at a location used for trafficking humans to other countries. The person they meet advises them to hurry, as police officers are present and helicopters are monitoring the area from above. As they reach their destination, it becomes apparent that an additional payment is required for their rescue. Nico asks Mia to sacrifice her wedding ring, the last possession she has, and with tears in her eyes, she hands it over. Finally, the family reaches a container that will be transported by truck to the port, where it will be loaded onto a ship and sent to Ireland. It is revealed here that Mia is pregnant, and several other families with young children are hiding in the container as well. Despite their proximity, people remain silent, solely focused on their own salvation. Nico indulges his wife with a luxurious chocolate treat, which she is asked to save for a celebration of their rescue. Ireland, a nation proud and strong, will surely provide refuge. As the truck embarks on its journey, Nico inquires about Noah's well-being, and reveals that he has already chosen a name for their daughter, though Mia longs for a son. The woman is concerned about the baby's lack of movement, but Nico assures her that all will be well, considering their past loss. Suddenly, the truck halts, and a mob storms in, forcing the newcomers to retreat, with the smugglers threatening them with weapons. Nico gets swept away, ignoring Mia's pleas and screams. The second group is loaded into a green truck, following the first. The couple stays in touch by phone, and the husband vows to escape at the next stop and reunite with her. The truck navigates through streets filled with protests against child seizures and government oppression, its body riddled with bullet holes. Mia witnesses the horrors, weeping in despair. The military stops the truck and their commander forces the driver to open it, suspecting that the fugitives are hiding behind a false wall. He threatens to shoot everyone if they don't come out. Mia manages to climb onto a high wooden crate in the cargo hold. The military opens the door and starts shooting, killing Mia's fellow travelers. Afterward, the soldiers dispose of the bodies, clean up the blood, and release the truck. Mia attempts to contact Nick to warn him about the inspections, but he is unavailable. Her container is loaded onto a ship, and she embarks on her journey with uncertainty about when she will reunite with her husband and if he will be able to escape from Spain alive. While sitting by the wall, Mia falls asleep and wakes up from the ship entering a storm. Metal containers start falling into the ocean. Mia tries to get the attention of the sailors, but they are focused on their own survival and ignore her cries. After a strong jolt, Mia loses consciousness from hitting her head. When she wakes up, there is complete silence outside. Peering through a bullet hole, she realizes in horror that her container has fallen into the ocean and is now adrift on the waves. Mia attempts to contact Nico, but her phone is waterlogged and no longer functional. As she recalls, there is an abandoned bag from one of her fellow travelers. Upon exploring its contents, she discovers a functional phone that unfortunately turns out to be locked, rendering her unable to make any calls. Noticing water seeping through the bullet holes, she begins searching the cargo and stumbles upon clothes, which proves timely as Mia is wet and cold. Changing into the dry attire, she continues inspecting the cargo and finds headphones and alcohol, which are of no use in sealing the holes. However, Mia eventually locates some tape and endeavors to stop the water from entering the container. Soon after, she discovers her notebook containing precious photos of her daughter and hears desperate cries from outside. Peering out, she spots a green van nearby with her husband inside, prompting her to scream in despair, though she is powerless to assist those drowning. Mia swaps SIM cards in an attempt to call Nico once more, witnessing the container sinking into the water. Finally, the call connects, but the voicemail informs her that Nico is unable to speak. Replaying the brief message repeatedly, Mia realizes the heartbreaking truth that her husband is no longer alive. Preparing a knife, she contemplates ending her torment, until her child stirs for the first time in 2 days, causing her to put the knife away. Exhausted, Mia lies down to sleep, only to be awakened by strange sounds coming from the container. Opening her eyes, she discovers water surrounding her, and she screams in terror. Suddenly, she wakes up for real, finding that although there is indeed water in the container, the level is not critical. Mia opens another crate and finds plastic packaging boxes inside. Initially enraged, she soon realizes they can be utilized to create patches for the bullet holes. Using the pipes she discovered, she pumps the water out from inside and seals the holes. Mia endeavors to connect with someone, but the lack of a network signal thwarts her efforts. In the midst of her frustration, an unexpected phone call interrupts the silence. Her husband's voice echoes through the line, informing her that the driver has abandoned them outside the city limits, leaving him to play catch-up. Mia shares her distressing situation with her husband, who assures her that he will devise a plan to rescue her. As Mia consumes the last of her food and gazes out at the ocean, hoping for salvation, another tempest begins to brew. The evening brings not only the storm but also the onset of labor pains. Mia battles to cope with the discomfort, calling out to her husband in desperation, but no one responds. Eventually, she gives birth to a lifeless baby girl. Mia pleads for a miracle, and moments later, the child lets out a faint cry. The woman promptly places the placenta in a plastic container and crafts makeshift diapers from the scant clothing she has. However, the newborn refuses to feed and wails incessantly, causing Mia to feel overwhelmed. In a moment of desperation, Mia remembers a drill among her belongings and attempts to bore a hole through the ceiling. The baby's cries persist, and Mia's patience wears thin, leading her to shout at the infant before quickly regretting her outburst. The following evening, the baby finally latches onto Mia's breast and falls asleep, granting her a brief respite. The next morning, Mia resumes her work on drilling a hole through the ceiling, only for the drill's battery to die just as she nears completion. Disheartened, she attempts to turn on her phone once more, but it refuses to function. Mia makes repeated attempts to create a hole in the ceiling, but her efforts are in vain. The container she is in is extremely hot and lacks air to breathe. To cool herself, Mia occasionally uses seawater and climbs to the holes in the ceiling to inhale the fresh sea air. Her situation becomes more complicated when she injures her hands while trying to break through to the air. One night, Mia hears strange sounds outside and feels the container swaying dangerously. She realizes that whales have taken an interest in her makeshift vessel and are attempting to play with it. The baby starts crying, causing Mia to knock on the walls in an attempt to scare away the sea creatures. She breathes a sigh of relief when they finally leave. On the 6th day of her captivity, Mia has almost drilled through the distance between the holes in the ceiling. However, her knife breaks, and water is also running out. Mia tries to collect condensation drops on the container's ceiling, but there are very few of them. Eventually, Mia loses her strength and falls into a delirium. Her older daughter, Uma, comes to her and pleads for them to leave. Uma accuses Mia of allowing her to be taken away, as she only wanted to play outside. Uma leaves, and Mia begs for forgiveness. Soon after, Mia feels her husband's touch, comforting her and telling her that it wasn't her fault. The woman regains consciousness as fresh rainwater pours through the openings onto her. Mia arranges some containers to collect the water. Suddenly, she discovers the last remaining can of canned food. After replenishing her strength, she makes a promise to her daughter that she will rescue them from this place and continues her efforts to escape. Finally, she successfully bends a piece of metal and catches a glimpse of the sky. Mia laughs hysterically and climbs to the surface to observe the ocean. She then takes her daughter outside to show her the sun. After changing her daughter's clothes, Mia throws the diaper into the water and unexpectedly spots a fish. She improvises a fishing hook using wire and attempts to catch at least one fish, but her efforts are in vain. One day, she sees an airplane in the sky and tries to signal it using a shard of a mirror. Unfortunately, she ends up injuring her leg on the sharp edge of the hatch. Mia treats the wound with the alcohol she found and stitches it up, occasionally losing consciousness during the night. Mia spends her time weaving nets from wires, as she has a whole box of headphones. Eventually, she catches a fish and consumes it raw. Meanwhile, the water level inside the container continues to rise. Although Mia pumps out the water periodically, her makeshift vessel sinks deeper into the ocean. On the 12th day of her voyage, Mia shows her daughter photos that depict herself at work, school, and her father Nico, the owner of a small shop that had to close due to food shortages. However, people always came to him because he always found a solution. Now, he will undoubtedly find a way to rescue them. In addition, there is a photograph of Noah's grandmother, whom Mia intends to name the little girl after. The name symbolizes longevity and is the feminine version of Noah, who endured a lengthy voyage and eventually reached land. Another picture depicts Mia's sister, Uma, who had aspirations of becoming a pilot but had to remain confined at home when the regime took control. The girl yearned to go outside, and one day her mother took her out against her better judgment. However, the military noticed the child and took her away. As Mia shares this story with her daughter, she realizes that the girl is not feeling well. Using a makeshift lamp made from a thermos and alcohol, Mia tries to provide warmth by wrapping the little one in a sweatshirt. She sings a lullaby to her sleeping child and eventually falls asleep herself, while their ship continues to drift aimlessly. Eventually, the water level rises to a critical point. With determination, Mia resurfaces and her phone begins to ring. It is Nico's voice on the other end, informing her that he cannot reach her and she must save herself. He is wounded and hiding in a container, fighting to survive, but his blood loss is severe, and he realizes that his time is running out. He wants to bid farewell to his beloved wife and their newborn daughter. Mia promises to fight and hands the phone to her daughter so that her father can speak to her. As the phone's battery fades away, Mia expresses her love for her husband, and his voice gradually dissipates. The lady reclines on the top, gazing at the stars, and suddenly recollects that she still possesses the Snickers bar her spouse bestowed upon her in her pocket. On day 26 at sea, the holder gradually but surely fills with water, and a moment arrives when Mia must ascend to the peak and remain there with her daughter. She constructs a makeshift raft using boxes and debris, and just as a seagull perches on the container, it brings hope of rescue. Mia salvages everything she can from the sinking holder, while the improvised raft, carrying her daughter, is swept into the ocean. Mia's leg becomes entangled in the ropes, and as the container sinks, she struggles to free herself. Eventually, she manages to do so at the very last instant, but upon resurfacing, she doesn't spot the raft and despairingly cries out. Finally, she hears her daughter's cry and swims towards it. Whales swim around, but they don't harm the humans. Morning arrives, and Mia regains consciousness. She implores her baby to endure alongside her and proceeds to discard the fish she had previously caught. She expresses gratitude for her life being saved and acknowledges that she did everything within her power. Then, she hears a seagull shrieking overhead. Currently, a fishing vessel is using nets to catch fish in the vicinity. A fisherman and his family noticed birds flying in circles over something in the water and decided to investigate. They approached and discovered a raft with a child on it. Pulling the raft onto their boat, they noticed a crate with a woman tied to it. After bringing Mia on board, they performed CPR, successfully reviving her. Just as it seemed all their attempts were in vain, Mia began to breathe and regained consciousness. She immediately inquired about her daughter, and they handed the baby to her. Meanwhile, the fisherman called for an ambulance at the nearby port, which is expected to arrive in 20 minutes. Reassuring Mia, the fisherwoman mentioned that they were safe as Ireland was close by. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more.